how's it going, YouTube? Today's video is gonna be about the differences between Raider and Berserker for Lightning Strike, and just in general, because I get a lot of questions about which ascendancy is better, Raider or Berserker, as they tend to be two of the fastest and most fun to play ascendancies because of the attack speed and move speed. So I'm just gonna go over a few of the differences and what I believe to be the superior choice. And then we're going to go look at a 288 million DPS profile for, what's it called, elemental hit. And it is the highest damage POENINJA profile currently, and I just wanted to explore it and showcase why the person is able to get so much damage. But before we do that, I'm going to go over my build and gear overview. I did end up trying a lot of different skills, but it turns out that Lightning Strike is just unbeatable. I tried out Wild Strike. I even bought Elemental Hit to try out, and it's all really bad compared to Lightning Strike. And I even tried out Static Strike, and Static Strike was a complete disaster because Static Strike actually does not scale with your attack speed. So if you look at Static Strike, it's literally just a glorified melee attack. Wait, where is Static Strike? I think I might have destroyed the gem. No, it's over here. So Static Strike pretty much just makes it so that you have like blade vortex around you and it does damage around you, but the thing is that damage does not get scaled with your attack speed, so it's actually a lot better with slow weapons. So it turns out that Lightning Strike is still the best ability, and I haven't found a suitable replacement yet. For my gear today, I didn't really get that many upgrades, but I did buy one piece of gear, which is usually a pretty important piece to get, and this is the Watcher's Eye. I decided to get a full conversion Watcher's Eye that was actually 40% divine, because if I was to divine 40%, it would probably be really hard. So the reason we want as much conversion as possible is because Lightning Strike gives us 50% conversion from physical to lightning, and then 40% with the Watcher's Eye, and then we have 10%. We could usually get this on the gloves, but my gloves does not have an open prefix, so I'm unable to do that. But overall, what this means is that getting a Watcher's Eye that's 3 mods is oftentimes a lot better than getting one with 2 mods that are perfect. So obviously precision multi will probably be more damage than attack damage, but unfortunately there's no triple modded Watcher's Eye with Wrath and then precision multi and then some other one. So this one actually ends up being over like a 10% DPS increase compared to my old one, which was flat cold damage with hatred and wrath conversion. So I'm pretty happy with this purchase. It cost me only 15 exalts for 10% damage increase, and that's actually a very good ratio. So I was considering on this claw to roll some tempering orbs on it. Tempering orbs cost 5 exalts each, but some of the good outcome is I could get 8% physical damage modifiers, so that could be something I could do in the future. I did try to look into buying a better claw, but there's really no triple T1 prefix claws out there that I was aware of, or I couldn't find any. And as usual, the helm, all these pieces of gear are pretty capped out. This amulet here though, I am trying to buy one with physical as extra lightning. I did put it into the palm and it ends up being quite a bit more damage than flaring. This amulet also has 104 life now because I decided to use a Fertile Catalyst because the Flat Fizz was actually not doing very much. And I do want to try to level the character, so I am trying to prioritize HP more, so you can see I have 5,221 HP now. And I did make some changes to the tree a little bit. I grabbed this node over here. So I ended up dropping 2 of these claw nodes, and then I was able to cancel out by getting Finesse. And then I dropped 1 more HP node here, 6%, so I was able to get 8% here with Heart of Oak. And it also gives you a little bit of regen, chance to avoid being stunned, and movement speed. So this is like the sort of optimization that you should be doing in order to try to make the build feel as good as possible. So here I also dropped these 2 points right here from versatility to go into here because again, this gives me more move speed, and it also gives you attack damage and crit chance. So I feel like these 2 nodes end up being better than this one over here. And then this also allows me to get a Lethal Pride to give me 20% increased armor, which is absolutely awful. So I'm actually using the completely wrong Lethal Pride right now, and I just realized that. So It's supposed to be giving me intimidate enemies for 4 seconds on hit, 10% reduce extra damage from crit, 20% increase stun duration, and 20% fire res. Right now, I'm pretty much only using this Lethal Pride for fire res and intimidate. But basically, all my pieces of gear are pretty capped out, I think, at this point. I can't really get better rings. I can still enchant this boot with a better enchant. I need to buy, I think the lab enchant with 60% attack and cast speed costs around like 4x or so, or 1x, and the pen one costs like 4x. So I will probably buy the pen one, since single target is pretty much the only place where this build even has any issues at all. And for the belt, I want to get a rage enchant, so every time you kill an enemy with rage up, you will get 2% of your life back, and that works very well with with petrified blood, because our HP is double effect, right? So 2% is pretty much like recovering 4% of our HP back, and it's pretty much like having a Cinder Swallow urn up the whole time, so it should be really, really good for mapping. One day I'll probably try to craft new gloves to try to get physical conversion to lightning. However, at this point, it's pretty hard to get T1 life, which strikes 2 additional nearby enemies. I could try to Maven Orbit, actually. So theoretically, I could roll or Chaos Spam it to try to get strikes additional and then get another influence mod on it, but we'll see what happens. The flask, I was thinking about using Alchemist, Quicksilver, or Adrenaline because my clear speed is fast enough where I don't really need the flash charges that much. I don't need Chemist, and I should be able to sustain it the whole time, so that's probably something else I'll do. But besides that, I think the flash situation is pretty good, and the main thing to upgrade for this build right now is jewels. If you look at my jewels, they're not perfectly like 4-statted. So this one is a jewel I have from my wanding days. So right now the attack speed of wand should be attack speed of claws. This thing here is just missing a mod. Evasion rating is not very good. So these ones are jewels I'm using because my resists are so bad. So like right now my resists are barely capped. So it's a big struggle. Ideally the amulet right now should get intelligence on it so I can drop this int node. So how much int do I need? So I need around like 24 int in order to drop it. And that will free up a point which should help out with the HP of the build. So you can see right now we're in the optimization phase where it's pretty hard to actually upgrade all these pieces of gear. This thing here is another jewel that's missing 1 mod. So we want to get 4 mods on all our jewels to be efficient. And then we also want to get a better amulet to allocate stats so we don't need to take this int node over here, which is really, really bad. But other than that, the build is coming to a finish in terms of optimizing it. And I don't really see that many other options to improve the damage. So right now, Lightning Strike is by far the best build I've played all league in terms of speed. You can get 250 splinters in Tropical Island super easily. You can kill any boss almost instantaneously, and your move speed is near like 350 to 400% with everything up, and you have Whirling Blades to travel across the map super fast. But now I'm going to talk about the differences between Raider and Berserker because everyone always asks me that question on stream. So right here we have a Raider Lightning Strike character. In the end, Raider and Berserker actually comes out to be somewhat similar-ish damage, but there's one thing that distinguishes the two, and it actually makes it a completely different experience to play. And you can see this guy has pretty good gear. This guy has a level 34 Ice Bite replica, Forbidden Shaco, Pharaoh's Fur, and pretty much like +1 Frenzy. He has he doesn't have +2/+1 Frenzy rings, but he has 4 to 8 cold damage for Frenzy Charge, which is extremely good for the build, and he has a +1 Frenzy shield. So this is pretty much as good of gear as you're gonna get. And he's not even using a Quicksilver Flask because I'm assuming he's just using Whirling Blades to get around. He has Whirling Blades and Fortify and Ice Golem. So the main thing here to note is that his attack speed is 13.92. And that's actually the big difference between Raider and Berserker, is the attack speed for Raider is a lot slower than Berserker. And this is with someone who's using a Claw with 2.0 attack speed. A lot of Raiders also use Paradoxica, which brings this attack down to like 10. So later on you'll see that the Berserker has an attack speed of 24 or 23. And that's with like Berserk up the entire time. And Berserk is actually the main difference between Raider and Berserker. Of course, Berserker, having the name Berserker in its name, has Berserk up almost the whole time. And another thing to note is that Raider is technically more tanky. And the reason it's more tanky is this note over here. It has 15% chance to dodge, attack hits, and spell hits. And then this other stuff is not really that big of a difference. And then this is nearby enemies have exposure. And then it also has 50% chance to avoid elemental ailments while phasing. So this makes getting elemental ailment a lot easier. However, the Berserker build I'm playing right now is actually ailment immune with the flask up, with the life flask, which is up almost 100% of the time during bosses. And you might think that you get more movement speed with Raider, but you don't take the onslaught nodes over here that actually gives you more move speed. And so the only move speed you actually get from Raider from this tree is the 4% move speed for Frenzy Charge. So even if you got all of the move speed and you got maximum Frenzy Charges, and I think this build is 9 Frenzy Charges at the moment, you can see here the movement speed modifier is only 136%, and with elusive up it's 184%. And that's the big difference, is that Raider is slightly tankier than Berserker, of course, but you can see here after I import my character in, the big difference. So right now you can see the move speed is already 259%, and this is without any rage. So let's just say we have like 35 rage here, and then we have Alchemist Genius. So yeah, it's already at 276% move speed, so it's a lot faster. But the main thing to note here is that the attacks per second is so much higher. It's 20 attacks per second, and that's just an insane difference. And then let's see, am I leeching? I forgot to check that. So it's like 22.37. I don't know if it was checked on the other character. Maybe it didn't have any leech stuff for the clusters, but that's pretty much the big difference. And the move speed modifier is a huge difference too, in terms of how much move speed we get on Berserker. And the damage is pretty similar, but Berserker has a higher top end. I think Berserker is probably 10 to 20% more damage if you go full shaped and use all of the gear. But both builds have an insanely high cap. Trying to get all +1 frenzy gear and replica forbidden Shaco is a very expensive endeavor. But Raider is definitely slightly more tanky because of that one note I mentioned, 15% chance to dodge attack hits and 15% chance to dodge spell hits. But it actually does not have more movement speed. It does not have more attack speed, which makes the build feel actually a lot slower. And there's one last thing that makes a huge difference, which is Berserk. Berserk scales your attack speed with more attack speed, and it gives you more movement speed and more damage. So what that means is with headhunter buffs, Berserk is really strong because it scales the haste aura you get, and it also scales all the damage you get by an insane amount. So Berserkers also benefit a lot more from headhunter buffs than Raiders. But overall, both builds are really good. And in the end, Lightning Strike is the best skill. But Berserker is probably going to be more fun to play because of the attack speed and having Berserk up the whole time. And if you use Headhunter, it will feel the high end will be a lot better. But Raider is definitely slightly more tanky. It will definitely work as a starter. And it's probably easier to get ailment immune with Raider with less investment. But that's pretty much my 2 cents. Both builds are fine. Berserker is slightly faster, has a higher ceiling, and can whirl faster because your attack speed is just so much better. But Raider is slightly tankier. But you should pretty much choose whatever you want. If you already have a Raider, then you should just play a Raider unless you really want to have the faster playstyle. And that's pretty much it. So now I wanted to go over this one profile I saw of 288 million on Elemental Hit. So we have here, I just wanted to look at some profiles, and I saw this guy at 288 million. So people must wonder, what is this guy doing, right? Is he taking steroids or what? So let's import this guy's profile and see what's going on. And so he has 2 elemental hits, right? So this is the one, 288 million. Now you can see why. 744% crit multi. That's just pretty crazy. But you can see his tree. One thing stands out is he sacrifices everything in his power to get a cluster jewel slot. And why do you want to get a cluster jewel slot so badly? The main reason is because it allows you to get more jewel sockets. And jewel sockets are what makes this build tick. Because Elemental Hit is a jewel. that has multiple tags. So if you look at elemental hit right here, it has fire, cold, lightning, AoE, prismatic, bow, attack, projectile, meaning that you can get a quad multi-jewel really easily. So if you look at his jewels, they are tri-multi here, triple multi here. Then he has triple multi here with damage, triple multi with prod speed with resist. So this person, you have to give props, right? This person is actually making a build so he can actually map. This is a quad multi-jewel, and this one here is another quad multi-jewel. So this person is actually trying to play a build that allows him to do maps because he actually has capped res, I'm pretty sure, because once you factor in the lethal pride, he probably has. So this is another quad multi-jewel. So pretty much jewels are extremely important on this build, and he uses 2 combat focuses so that he only does fire for elemental hit. And you can see for his medium clusters, he has Cremator, Master of Fire, which nearby enemies have fire exposure, and ignited enemies by your hits are destroyed. So he could actually probably be doing more damage if he didn't use this cluster. So this one's Pressure Points Quick Getaway, which is a double damage cluster. And then here we have more Eye to Eye Repeater. So this is pretty good. And then he has another Eye to Eye Repeater. So his medium clusters are pretty juiced out. And if you want to get the highest tooltip damage on POB, you always want to use 5 passive point clusters. So you can see here he has 144 points. So in the end, also taking these nodes at the back are really important. So you need to make sure your third notable on the large cluster, even if you don't take it, is something that's going to add a lot of damage. So this is elemental damage of attacks and increased effect of ailments. And make sure to always do 5 passive points on your cluster, even if you don't plan on taking them all. So that's why he has so many spare points, right? So you take out all these points, he's at 129. So what this means is this guy is actually cheating, and he's taking nodes that he doesn't actually have. So I'm assuming that he's not taking these quick getaway nodes because he wants the double damage. So once you can take away these, maybe Cremator he doesn't take, and he just has the exposure, then that's how you get it, right? So he uses 5 passive point clusters, he only takes 1 of the points, and that's how you get 123. So that's just one of the gamesmanship of trying to get a high PoE ninja profile, is trying to figure out a way to squeeze out as many passive points as you can, even if you cannot take all of the passive points. So he has a pretty good watcher style with double anger, which is pretty standard. And another thing is that he's using this thing called Arn's Anguish. So what this means is that he has, because of Slayer, you have this node here. So he has 11 endurance charges and 11 frenzy charges. And the reason he has that is because if you look at this thing down here, there's this node called your maximum endurance charges is equal to your maximum frenzy charges. So he stacks frenzy charges, and that also gives him 11 endurance charges. And then he uses this belt called Arn's Anguish, which makes him gain brutal charges instead of endurance charges. And what brutal charges does is it gives you a chance of getting triple damage. So if you take off this belt, you can see his damage goes down by 57%. So this belt is giving him 60% damage because of the endurance charges to brutal charges. So this is the reason why he chose a Slayer Ascendancy, and it's because Slayer Ascendancy is actually probably one of the most damage in the game, and this allows him to have the overleech, and then this gives him base critical strike chance. Oh, this makes it so that his weapon has 8% base crit, so that he doesn't need to worry about having a crit mod on the weapon, so he can just go with something with a base crit of, I think this bow is 5% base crit, but it has 8% because of the Slayer bonus, so that allows him to get a free suffix like 10% chance to deal double damage. And then this thing gives him 20% more damage and then 10% more if you've killed recently. So overall, Slayer ends up being the ascendancy that gives you the most damage. And it also has pretty good access to jewel slots and point blank, which helps out a lot. Yeah, so POB actually has point blank for it. So if you actually took out this, it's a huge difference. So this character is pretty much utilizing every single trick in the book, and while also having absolutely crazy gear, like having all of the quad multi-jewels. And it's also a frenzy charge stacker, a endurance charge stacker, which turns into brutal charge stacking. But this character is not really cheating by that much because it actually has all resist and it's not just a full cluster jewel build. So props to that. But you can already see if you actually took out the extra points he had from the start, he's already down to 187 mil. Then if you didn't have the belt, it would be even lower. And lastly, he also has really good corruptions on his amulet. He has additional curse, which allows him to use Arcanist brand with Sniper's Mark and Elemental Weakness. And yeah, this is probably the best helmet enchant too for damage because Sniper's Mark is overpowered. If you look at Sniper's Mark, it's pretty much 41% more damage, 41% increased damage from projectile hits, and Enhance also scales it insanely well. So hopefully this helps out everyone to see why Elemental Hit does so much damage. It's pretty much a skill that has really high base damage and has the ability to get quad multi-jewels because of all of the gems tags. But this guy's profile is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure he actually maps with this build because it's actually not that troll. But no Quicksilver Flask is definitely a troll. And if you want to get super high POENINJA DPS, be sure to put Instilling Orbs or Enkindling Orbs and put 50% increased effect on all of your flasks because that just gives you a lot more damage. So if you took off this guy's flasks with the Enkindling Orbs, it's already down. Holy moly, flasks are overpowered. And they said they nerf flasks, right? Triple damage with having flask up, but that's with using the Enkindling Orb. But hopefully everyone maybe will try out Elemental Hit. Probably not because Elemental Hit is pretty much just a POENINJA's Tooltip Warrior's wet dream. Overall, in the coming days, I'll probably try another build out. I've been trying to make Rage Vortex work, but Rage Vortex mechanically just seems so bad that I really have trouble actually making a good build that I actually want to play. It seems like Rage Vortex is this league's new slam build because it actually benefits really good from Warcries or really well from Warcries. However, I do want to try to get 100 mapping with this build. I do think it's possible with this amount of HP and this amount of defense because if you see 2600 plus 2400 steel skin and it's up a vast amount of the time while mapping. So you actually end up being really, really tanky. I think most of the times I die while looting the map and die to some random delirium explosion. And it'll be fun to try to max out the gear. I do think that I want to get a better claw or tempering orb. And there are still a lot of different choices, but I'll see what happens. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed all the content. I hope you find more mirrors and exalts than I do. And see you next time. Bye.